and just make a short point that yes, there are risks maybe involved, as with everything. But one of the major responsibilities of legal affairs is to scrutinize, monitor, and update the laws of Grenada so that we can always remain secure and protect our people and remain productive. I will now continue to speak regarding the Ministry of Labor. How can Citizen by Investment help our labor force? The Ministry of Labor has a mission, and I quote, of providing labor management services with high ethical and professional standards to all stakeholders, end quote, and is driven by the vision, and I quote, of being the leading public service organization in the delivery of labor management services, end quote. The National Transformation Fund may be approved to provide training to our labor force. Mr. Speaker, even better than this, the fund can also provide help to strengthen seed capital for new local Grenadian agencies suited to developing our same labor force. This can range from developing soft skills such as communication, interpersonal skills, and flexibility, which are leading and widely demanded soft skills in the world today. It can also further develop acquired technical skills, such as managing newer or more efficient technology, tools, or software programs. It can also be used to help us with advanced management to remain competitive in our rapidly developing world. Zoom and COVID come to mind as possible past examples. We want to maintain that our labor force is prepared. So our labor force will only increase from Citizen by Investment, but not just from the manifestations of projects, etc., from the National Transformational Fund, but from any potential businesses these Citizens by Investment may come and do after becoming a part of our Grenadian family. An example would be our branch of the prestigious Silver Sands Hotel that was launched by a Citizen by Investment. So in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the Citizen by Investment program is one that is protected by a robust legal act that ensures security, entices applicants, and facilitates warm relations and benefits from countries around Grenada. Mr. Speaker, may I have 1 minute to wrap my speech?
Honorable member, you are granted 30 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Legal Affairs Department is always looking to maintain our integrity, Mr. Speaker. We are always scrutinizing and contemplating updates to our laws to remain relevant, safe, and productive. When the time comes, we can bring the act to the Honorable House for consideration to maintain and further strengthen the integrity, safety, and attractiveness of Grenada and her people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member for St. Andrew Southwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand before you here today to oppose this resolution and to argue that the CBI program, as regulated by the CBI Act of 2013, should not be used to target specific sectors of our economy. By using the revenue generated through the Citizenship by Investment program to target specific sectors, the government may overlook other sectors in need of funding, which may lead to other sectors receiving more funds than others. Mr. Speaker, the government may overlook sectors in need of funding and development. One example of this is St. Kitts and Nevis, which heavily relies on the CBI program. According to Citizens International, despite the revenue generated from the program, the government has focused on using the revenue to develop specific sectors such as real estate and tourism. Mr. Speaker, this can lead to unbalanced development of our sectors. We're already seeing some of the vital sectors in Grenada struggling, and they are constantly experiencing a decline. For example, the agricultural sector has seen a decline, where there is a reduce in the market for agricultural products and a decrease in the number of persons involved in the agricultural sector. And as a result, the farmers of St. Andrews Southwest and the country as a whole is continuing to pay the price. However, Mr. Speaker, the government ignores the decline and the cries of the many farmers and workers in the agricultural sector and proceeds to invest heavily in other sectors, which can lead to the neglect of the agricultural sector and other vital sectors. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if the honorable members on the other side have learned anything from the last pandemic, but if it's one thing I have learned is that we must grow what we eat and eat what we grow. And the only way we can do that is ensuring that the agricultural sector and all the other sectors are equally developed. Mr. Speaker, the pandemic has also taught us another very important lesson, which is we should ensure that all the sectors are operating at the same level, not one way above the other. It shouldn't be a case where if one sector fails and revenue from it drastically decreases, then the country is on a standstill. It shouldn't be a case where if one sector fails, the country cannot move and cannot operate as normal. No, Mr. Speaker. That is why we should invest in all sectors and ensure that all the sectors are operating at the same level, where in the case of an emergency and one sector fails, the country can fall back on another and continue to operate as normal. Mr. Speaker, by targeting the revenue generated through the CBI program to specific sectors, the government may also overlook other sectors or other areas that have the potential to generate significant revenue and create jobs, such as small, medium-sized enterprises. According to the Caribbean Development Bank, small, medium-sized enterprises account for over 90% of businesses and 30% of employment in the Caribbean. By providing support and resources to these businesses, we can encourage entrepreneurship and job creation, which will lead to economic growth. Instead of targeting the revenue generated through the CBI program to specific sectors, the government should take a comprehensive approach that takes into account the needs and potential of all sectors. A comprehensive approach should also include investing in small, medium-sized enterprises, health, agriculture, education, and all the other sectors. Because all the sectors, not just a specific number of sectors, have the potential to generate significant amounts of revenue and create jobs. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the government should also consider implementing a sector-specific approach where each sector is given the necessary resources and support to reach its full potential. This will lead to a sustainable and well-balanced development across all sectors. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, targeting the revenue generated through the CBI program to specific sectors could lead to unbalanced development of sectors, where some sectors receive more funding than others, which may lead to the neglect of other vital sectors. A comprehensive approach which takes into account the needs and potential of all sectors, not just a specific few, but all sectors, would be more likely to achieve sustainable economic growth for Grenada. I urge the government to consider these suggestions and work towards a comprehensive and sustainable approach. I thank you.
I wish to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Ian Thomas, an advisor to the Ministry of Youth, and the presence of Ms. Colleen Perriman, who is the Assistant Youth Coordinator in our presence here today. Honorable Minister for Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to greet you and your team and wish you all the best, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I stand in full support of the resolution that has been read by the Honorable Prime Minister and Minister for Finance today, Mr. Speaker. And the Citizen by Investment Program, Mr. Speaker, as regulated by the CBI Act of 2013, Mr. Speaker, has significant benefits, Mr. Speaker, to both our country and the potential investor seeking the citizenship, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is through this program that we as citizens benefit from the potential investors' investment, and they receive citizenship or permanent residency in our beautiful country, Mr. Speaker. It is the Citizen by Investment Program, Mr. Speaker, that brings much needed foreign investment to our country, Mr. Speaker. These investments, Mr. Speaker, are used to enhance our lives, Mr. Speaker. They are used to enhance our country, to enhance the livelihood of our people, Mr. Speaker, and to create a more sustainable way of living for all of our citizens, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, projects like the Range Development Project in Las Vegas, Mr. Speaker, is an example of one of the projects that the government.
Honorable member for the town of St. George.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on the point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you yield?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Could you be specific in saying how the CBI program positively affects the lives of citizens? You just made a vague statement of being specific. Please be specific. Thank you very much.
Honorable member, I too would like to hear those specifications. If indeed you have them, you can list them. If not, you may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I do not have them, and I wish to proceed with my speech. Mr. Speaker, the CBI program has also increased our cultural diversity as individuals, Mr. Speaker. As individuals, from countries all over the world, Mr. Speaker, can
Honorable
apply
member
for.
for St. Andrew Northeast.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order. It seems as though the honorable member is reading.
Honorable member, this issue has been addressed on a number of occasions in this sitting already, and I would like to reiterate that there is absolutely no reading in this honorable house. So please refrain from doing so. You may continue.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Citizen by Investment Program has also increased our country's cultural diversity, Mr. Speaker. The program, Mr. Speaker, it allows for persons from all different countries, Mr. Speaker, to apply for our citizenship. And the cultural diversity that I speak of, Mr. Speaker, has led to a more vibrant, Mr. Speaker, and dynamic society, which has also boosted our healthcare system, our education system, and certainly impacted our culture and
Honorable
other
member for St. David South.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you wish to yield?
No, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, according to a national address done by the Prime Minister, our government has gained and increased. According to a national address, Mr. Speaker, held by the Prime Minister, the CBI program in the recent past months has increased the revenue.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you yield?
I do not yield, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, according to a national address by the Prime Minister, in the recent past months, our revenue from the CBI program has increased by 40%. as opposed to the previous year, Mr. Speaker. Our country has significantly been benefiting from those programs, and the government intends to maintain.
Honorable Member for St. Andrew South East.
I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable Member, do you wish to yield?
I do not yield, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, before you proceed, if it will be a bit more comfortable for you to present your speech, you are permitted to lift your paper just a bit so you can deliver better. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I firmly believe that the Citizen by Investment Program, as regulated by the CBI Act of 2013, is in fact an important tool for our government to attract more investments and to gain access to new opportunities and increase revenue. Mr. Speaker, and these programs can also help to build more prosperous and stable society for all of our citizens. I thank you.
Honorable Member for St. David South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak in opposition to the resolution brought forward before this honorable House. To begin, I thank my colleagues for laying such a solid foundation upon which I will continue my delivery. In an environment dominated by larger nations, small islands have utilized citizenship by investment and other innovative strategies to survive. Consequently, national citizenship has become less of a bond between individual and state. The sale of passport is merely one manifestation of this irreversible commodification of citizenship. Mr. Speaker, I heard Grenada's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Export Development make public pronouncements in a certain place about the revenue generated from the CBI. He stated that Grenada's CBI revenue provided 49.2% of capital funding in 2022. A significant portion of these fundings were used to repay international creditors and fund capital projects as well as pay debts. Esteemed colleagues, when we recognize this program's benefits, particularly for small islands, we must not be naive to the risk factors associated with this program. Permit me to highlight 3 factors, Mr. Speaker, threatening and which questions the program's viability. Number 1, reputational damage. There's a saying that goes, Peter pays for Paul and well, Paul pays for all. The CBI program can impact nations in the very same way. Mr. Speaker, on November 8, 2022, in an article titled Debunking Myths Against Myths, the author made reference to such. An Indian national who was arrested for a $250 million scam, Mr. Speaker, applied for a St. Kitts and Nevis passport. He was initially rejected, but later approved. Years down the line, Mr. Speaker, that individual was arrested. Mr. Speaker, the whiplash St. Kitts and Nevis faced from this CBI national scandal is far greater than a son or daughter of the soil. Reputational damage, Mr. Speaker. Let us walk down memory lane if you wish, Mr. Speaker. Like the CBI program, our 40+ offshore banks attracted foreigners, particularly Americans and Canadians, with similar provisions to the CBI program. This number plummeted to less than 5 in 3 years, Mr. Speaker. So through you, I would like to ask the honorable members to do the math. Mr. Speaker, the Ponzi scheme was eventually brought down by the FBI and the IRS, and Sweet Grenada was blacklisted. In an article published on May 31st, 2008, investigative financial journalist David Marchant said, and I quote, Grenada's reputation as a pariah country is well earned, end of quote. To date, Mr. Speaker, we are still trying to recover from such a shame. Mr. Speaker, it is also no secret that all islands in the Caribbean are oftentimes painted with the same brush. And though we boast of having one of the best due diligence process, can we really stand behind the integrity of our neighboring islands, Mr. Speaker? Do we really think it's a coincidence that visa restrictions are now applied to all Caribbean countries for certain places? Think on that. 2, diplomatic tension. Mr. Speaker, due to the unprecedented sanctions imposed by the European Union, member states are admonished to reject Russia's applications, Mr. Speaker. Countries like Cyprus and Malta, Mr. Speaker, where CBI programs accounts for a large percentage of their revenue, are left with a tough decision, and either choice will damage the country. So, Mr. Speaker, through you, I would like to ask and appeal to the honorable members. Open your eyes, awaken from your slumber, because according to the Jamaicans, every dog has his day and every puss is 4 o'clock. So today might be Cyprus and Malta, but 5 to 15 years down the road, this can also be Grenada. Mr. Speaker, as my colleague stated, Grenada has a very unique program in the sense that successful applicants have the opportunity to relocate to the US through the E2 treaty visa. And this treaty has been in existence, Mr. Speaker, since 1989. We're talking about 24 years before CBI. Mr. Speaker, however, the President of the United States recently, as in last month, December 23rd of 2022, made amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act, which include changes to the E2 treaty visa rules, Mr. Speaker. This subtle act, Mr. Speaker, could be the start of future restrictions on the Grenadian passport and possible interruption, Mr. Speaker, in our trade between the United States as a result of this very same CBI program. Furthermore, honorable members, the relationship between Grenada and the United States is very critical, if you didn't know. Lest we forget, most of our banking is done through the United States. And Mr. Speaker, this amendment, Mr. Speaker, is merely a glimpse of future restrictions caused by the CBI program imposed by our main international suppliers. And we have America putting restrictions, Mr. Speaker. We don't know who else may place restrictions on us. In the words of Generation Z children, and I see a lot of them inside here, the pressure is getting worse. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, political corruption due to competitive market. Price competition and product differentiation will increase as more Caribbean countries and other countries enter into the market. Countries may start accepting disreputable investors, Mr. Speaker, and risk losing their visa waiver status. Quality control, honorable members, will become an issue. This claim is supported by the following Citizenship Shock article, Mr. Speaker. Whereas St. Lucia is not issuing e-passport and has cut their processing time to 45 days. And we also have St. Kitts and Nevis making critical changes to their CBI program, Mr. Speaker. They're now offering a time offer of $125,000 USD, Mr. Speaker. But on the flip side, Dominica removed the addition of siblings, and well, Bulgaria's CBI program is now closed. So we see where that is going. Mr. Speaker, this smells like a conducive environment for under-table deals, if you know what I mean. And Mr. Speaker, Grenada is no stranger.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable Member, do you yield?
No, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Grenada is no stranger to political corruption. It only takes the right amount of money and, well, a suitable briefcase. But let's not go there. Order. Mr. Speaker, I beg for 2 minutes to wrap up my speech, please.
Honorable Member, your time has just elapsed, but I am going to grant you your 2 minutes to wrap up your speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Moreover, As my colleague stated, the monies generated from this act goes into the NTF, the National Transformation Fund. But Mr. Speaker, there seems to be nothing transformative about Grenada since the inception of the CBI program. Mr. Speaker, don't take my word for it. Walk on our excellent roads, or take a stroll through our well-modernized town, Mr. Speaker, and you tell me our villages and communities have suffered dramatically due to the mismanagement, abuse, and lack of knowledge of allocating CBI funds. Mr. Speaker, Grenada was thriving before the implementation of the CBI program, and we will continue to strive after that.
Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Export.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of clarity.
Honorable Member, do you yield?
No, Mr. Speaker.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, countries like Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines who do not have CBI programs are doing just fine, and so can we, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, after all, we share the similar natural resources which we can utilize to boost our economy. Mr. Speaker, to sum up, some things should not be transactional. Given the high risk, citizenship and its attendant benefit should be zealously protected. Mr. Speaker, the points listed, Mr. Speaker, are all reasonable reasons to scrutinize Grenada CBI Act of 2013. We believe that strategic investment in various sectors and the fluidity of the monies, Mr. Speaker, would therefore boost our economy. And as we approach the Big 50, as an independent nation, we urge the honorable members on the other side to make decisions that take us from a state of dependency to independence. I thank you.
Honorable Minister for Infrastructure and Physical Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I be given permission to go throughout my speech?
Permission has already been granted. Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, in the year 2020, the world was taken by storm by a fella called COVID-19. Well, from large economies to small economies, the poor man to the rich man, everyone was affected. Small economies such as my beautiful Grenada was in a state of panic. The rest of the world was in shock. Mr. Speaker, I would have heard my members, my honorable members on the other side of the aisle mention COVID-19. We, the government, have the vision, and I'm going to show you how exactly. In the year 2020, Portugal was able to raise, and listen, 647 million euros during COVID while the world was on shutdown. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for St. David South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable Member, do you yield?
Mr. Speaker, I do not yield in the interest of time.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, that's 647 million euros. When converted to EC dollars, is exactly 1.9 billion EC dollars, which, when compared to our national budget in 2023, is just 1.3 billion EC dollars.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable Member, do you yield?
Mr. Speaker, I do yield.
Mr. Speaker, I have heard the honorable member speak about 640, how much ever million euros, but no source was stated. I would like the honorable member to elucidate, to make clear the source, or if he was there himself, let us know.
Honorable Member, you may proceed by responding.
I will respond and then proceed. Mr. Speaker, I am quoting from one of the most financially stable and reputable investment websites on the internet, right? They are providing stable investment for millions of people. So I continue with my speech. Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that it...
Honorable Member for St. David South.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you yield?
Mr. Speaker, I do not yield in the interest of time.
Honorable member, before you proceed, you were asked to provide a source, and we are still waiting on that source to be
That
provided.
source was provided as imidaily.com.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Right. Mr. Speaker, as I stated earlier, that 1.3 billion EC that was projected for our budget to run a year, one country made that during the year of COVID. And that wasn't even the highest amount they made. At one time, they made 847 million euros. Mr. Speaker, in that way, I would say to my honorable members across the aisle, to put that in your pipe and smoke it. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister for Physical Development, which is responsible for creating an environment that fosters sustainable social and economic growth, it is in the hands of me and my honorable members on this side of the aisle to show exactly how feasible our CBI program, regulated by the 2013 Act, is possible to be used in Grenada. We would target sectors such as education, agriculture, tourism, and community development. Mr. Speaker, I would have heard some statements made by my honorable members across the aisle about we targeting specific sectors. Yes, we are targeting specific sectors because they interlock with one another. There is no one sector that just stands alone. Mr. Speaker, first let us look at our education system. Our education system at present is from the 1800s. We are yet to come into today's way of teaching, where our teachers and students are shackled by the chalk and talk, where they sit and they talk, and the teacher talk and give notes. We as a government propose that we will put into place infrastructure where we can have proper internet connections within the classroom, provide projectors so that teachers can implement their lessons very well. Currently, Mr. Speaker, we would like to also endeavor on...
Honorable member for St. David South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you wish to yield?
Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I do not wish to yield.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, it is in this endeavor that we, the government, plan on implementing physical structures or facilities where we can train our nation youth in things such as automotive repair, electrical engineering, just to name a few. Mr. Speaker, we also would have seen that over the years our CBI program would have approved many projects such as hotels. We also want to implement a training center.
Honorable member for St. David South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you wish to yield?
Mr. Speaker, I do not wish to yield, as I said, in the interest of time, and I will address my detractor statement soon. Mr. Speaker, in the hospitality sector, we need competent people. So we will train them in our newly built facilities where they learn things of how to work in hotels, customer management, all of these things. Mr. Speaker, we want to implement programs where our young people are employed into these various hotels and CBI projects, which would have been built to run these projects. And as I said, they would give that unique Grenadian hospitality with aspects of our cultural heritage.
Honorable member for St. Andrew Southeast.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you yield?
Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I do not yield.
You may proceed.
Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, as an honorable member on this side would have alluded, the roads in terms of Grenada are terrible. Mr. Speaker, when we look at our farmers have to work so hard, but to get to the land alone is so much problems. I would have heard my honorable member across the aisle saying, if something not broke, why fix it? Well, clearly, these ministers are behaving very hypocritical. For example, yesterday, me and the honorable opposition leader was traveling on a bus. The bus driver went down into a hole and disappeared off the road. the opposition leader jumped up and said, "Oh God, man, they have to fix these roads." So, Mr. Speaker, how could they claim that it is not broke when they are the ones complaining? Are our citizens not worth fixing the roads for? Mr. Speaker, we would have seen farmers protest, although it's not encouraged or endorsed. They would have planted pieces of fig trees in the middle of potholes, protesting. And we as the government are going to do something about it. Our road networks are like lifelines. It is where we are. It takes us from where we are to where we would like to be. Mr. Speaker, when we look at boosting our tourism industry, we have so many five-star hotels. However,
Honorable member for the town of Grenville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you yield?
Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I do not yield.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, we plan as the government to implement and to process applicants who meet the requirements of our security checks, as well as providing programs that take into consideration Grenada's natural, serene, beautiful scenery. We want to appeal to our investors as an escape from the hustle and the bustle of the first world countries by providing fresh air.
Honorable member for St. David South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of clarity.
Honorable member, do you yield?
Mr. Speaker, I do not yield. So we would like to provide that feeling of fresh air, water, and the scenic view of this sun-kissed landscape in Grenada. Mr. Speaker, we the government intend on approving projects that will help Grenada stand out from the crowd of countries all across the globe. Mr. Speaker, it is also the goal of the government to be fully accountable to the citizens of Grenada as well as our investors. It has come to the government's attention that there are grants funded of different projects, but so many times they fly under the radar. We, the government, have undertaken an initiative to document all approved CBI programs, as well as allowing investors to provide regular project updates to the Grenadian public, thus increasing safety and transparency for all parties. In conclusion, we as the government would like to stress that the CBI program is more than a viable means to provide revenue to help.
Honorable members of the opposition, in the interest of time, I would like to allow the minister on the floor to complete his speech. Thank you. Honorable member, you may proceed.
Right. So we plan the CBI program is more than a viable means to provide revenue to help the. Mr. Speaker, may I be granted 1 minute to wrap up my speech?
Honorable member, you are granted 45 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, we want to fully develop the economy of Grenada to its full potential. As put well by Carl Levine, and I quote, "We have a hope of success if we learn from our past mistakes and come together to make the hard choices," end of quote. What that suggests is that our honor members on the other side must rise above political affiliations and come to the table with solutions, not problems. Mr. Speaker, if they cannot do that, then we see exactly why they are on the opposition side and not sitting on this side of the aisle. Mr. Speaker, I can hear the old folks, how the elderly used to say it. You can bring a donkey to the water, but you cannot make them drink. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any other contributions to this debate? Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through you, I would like to thank the honorable members on the opposition for the very, very few valuable feedback of this resolution. to this resolution. I must say, it is specific sectors for a purpose. We are not redirecting for redirecting sake. We are not waving a magic wand and boom, a barrel of money fall from the sky and it just spread across Grenada. It have to be specific. We need structures in place. That is why we have specific sectors. As I stated, we are investing also in the financial sector. So sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, or tourism sector, or creative economy will all benefit. And the spin-off effect will be great. Think about this, that $50 million we invest in agriculture, in the next 5 years, there might be 100 million. You see, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member of the opposition spoke about benefits of the NFT. He speaks about achieving economic sustainability, invest in renewable energy. But where are the funds coming from? We can use the funds generated through the CBI program to help go for economic sustainability, to help in also renewable energy. He lists benefits after benefits after benefits, but his teammates are against it. It's like they want to play job, Mr. Speaker, but they're afraid to get dirty with the oil. How can, in addition, we have a Bible quoter in our midst that states that the CBI program is not viable. But how can the CBI program not be viable when viable speaks about sustainability? We have seen the increase in revenue from the CBI program. And I must say, it is consistent. In not 1 year, the CBI program up, the next year, we're struggling to make $5 from the CBI program, Mr. Speaker. And also, I stand on a point of clarity, not for me, not for this government, it's for the people of Grenada, because yes, we are the government, but we need all the criticism that we can get. He was afraid, the honorable member was afraid to yield because he knew what he was saying was a set of lies. He also goes on to speak about not publishing any operations from the CBI, but I don't know if his glasses wasn't working properly or it was blurry while he was doing the research. But if you look at our CBI program, we have been publishing our CBI operations. Matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, I must say, we produce 2 reports every year. We are now planning to do 4 reports every quarterly. In that way, we will be more transparent to the people of Grenada. Now, Mr. Speaker, I could have fallen down from the seat when I heard this specific honorable member said something. But I want to come across as being disrespectful, but this must be said. The honorable representative from the town of Grenville indicates that there are no interviews for these citizens. Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised that that honorable member said that. Matter of fact, in an interview, I've heard that honorable member saying, and I quote, "I am not quite familiar with the CBI program, but I'm willing to do more research." Now, obviously, they will come up with these vacuous claims. If they are not, they will come with these vacuous claims if they are not familiar with the program. So, you know what? For that, through you, I would like to ask that honorable member to go home, do more research, then come back and give the valuable criticism that we need as a government. And also, with no interview part, that is a lie, Mr. Speaker. I want to be more here, but I have the act right here. I would like to show that honorable member of Tongue of Grenville the act. You know what I will read it to say? It will be better. And I quote, "The committee may engage the services of one or more bodies one or more persons or bodies which are independent, professional, and qualified to conduct due diligence check in respect of every applicant over 11 years of age, and the applicant may be required to attend an interview in Grenada or at an embassy or High Commission of Grenada before any decision is made. Also, another honorable member came up with a vacuous claim. 3 to 4 months is not enough to generate adequate funds. Mr. Speaker, as I say again, that member might have blurry glasses also while he was doing research. Come on, go to the website, go to the fiscal reports that we publish as a Minister for Finance. You will see the adequate funds. 3 to 4 months, Mr. Speaker, it is ludicrous. The CBI program has been there since 2013. I mean, I went to college with that specific honorable member, but now I understand why they did not do maths. 2013 to present date. How that is 3 to 4 months. That is 10 years. The honorable member from St. Kitts, the honorable member from St. Andrews North East spoke about community development. I will repeat this. We can use the funds generated through the CBI program to help fund for the community development of our nation. Let that sink in. Also, they stated that we did not speak about other sectors. No, you might be laughing, but I'm being very serious here. It aches me to hear honorable members in this house come up with a bunch of lies. How can you say we did not talk about these sectors when we as a government clearly indicated the sectors that we are going to invest in and how it can benefit our Grenada? I myself stated financial sector. That will cause a spin-off effect to go through agriculture, manufacturing, and the list can go on. Also, a specific member made a bold claim about, I will take this back. All right, so the honorable member of St. Andrews South East spoke about St. Kitts and Nevis. Are we St. Kitts and Nevis? Do the honorable member need a map to see where we are? The mismanagement of the CBI program in St. Kitts and Nevis has nothing to do with our CBI program operated in Grenada. And also, what if someone from Russia applies for Citizen by Investment program? Are all Russian citizens bad? No. They also stated that NFT benefits us through the CBI program. So also, yeah, thank you for agreeing with us that the CBI program is a viable means for creating revenue in this country. And I also must say this, the COVID-19 pandemic taught us to grow what we eat. Agriculture, other sectors, they need equal treatment in terms of reinvesting funds into these sectors. We will target these sectors, but listen, Rome wasn't built in a night. What we presented today is only the start to diversifying investments through the CBI program. To address a certain honorable member, they stated about the risk and the probability of the CBI being exploited, but I must say that basically being used by criminals. As I will say this again, our robust CBI committee ensures us that this program is not exploited by these thugs, Mr. Speaker. Yes, there might be a few risks, but should we close down a viable means of revenue? Because there's a risk. With this mindset, we should burn down Grenada because we have risk of hurricanes, we have risk of earthquakes. But what is important is how we mitigate against these risks. Also, after this sitting, I wish one of the honorable members to come and speak to me after to explain to me why the Bulgaria CBI was closed, because that is quite a vague statement. That CBI program can be closed because of mismanagement of their CBI program. We are not Bulgaria. Our CBI program is not Grenada and Bulgaria Citizens by Investment Program. We have our own unique citizen by investment program. Also, what about excellent roads? Funds generated through the CBI. And I will say it for the 1000th time. Funds generated through the CBI program can be used to help benefit our roads and fiscal development. And and also, we have hotels being built, many beautiful hotels, 5 stars. The positive externalities of these hotels will develop our nation's roads, Mr. Speaker. But before I take my seat, I'd like to say this, and I say this with honor. We are planning on reopening our libraries. CBI funds will be used to help in the reopening of our library. The honorable members on the other side cry, vex about it, but we, our government, are putting things into work. We are making progress with our CBI. So when the library open, go there, do some research, then come back to this house and give proper critics. Instead of trying to retard the progress of this hard-working government. So yes, enjoy the view from that side of the table because enjoy that view from that side of the parliament. Because your waiting have just begun. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the following resolution be agreed. Whereas Grenadian citizens can travel without visa restrictions to more than 115 international and Commonwealth countries, and whereas access to citizenship by investment is restricted by specific conditions around the world, and whereas the state of Grenada has no foreign income, wealth, gift, inheritance, or capital gains tax, and whereas exploration of viable means of economic development for the state of Grenada is prudent, and whereas it is necessary to ensure that all means of securing economic development are guided by relevant and carefully defined laws to ensure adequate and careful implementation, processing, monitoring, and ultimate effectiveness. Be it therefore resolved that CBI program, as regulated by the CBI Act of 2013, is a viable means for government to increase revenue. Be it further resolved that the revenue generated through the CBI program be targeted to specific sectors. As many as are in favor that the resolution be agreed, say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary opinion say nay. Nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The resolution has been agreed.
Adjournment.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this honorable house be adjourned until the 13th day of March of 2022.
Honorable members, the question proposed is that this honorable house stands adjourned until March 13th, 2023. Honorable member for the town of Grenville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we adjourn, I firstly wish to congratulate all the youth parliamentarians on a job well done here today. And Mr. Speaker, as representative for the town of Grenville, I owe a duty to my constituents to bring to the fore areas of concern. And I rise to address an issue of national importance, but more specifically, an issue that has been plaguing the town of Grenville, that of the increased instances of vagrancy and homelessness. Mr. Speaker, it hurts me to say that it is no longer only young men we see on the sides of the road. No, there are women and even entire families. And for some, this is the only life that they've known. Assistance has not been forthcoming. Mr. Speaker, of course, the causes vary from drug abuse to unemployment to poverty and so on. But however, one thing remains certain is that they are still citizens of this country. And so I believe that it is in the best interest of this country that emphasis be placed on assisting and rehabilitating these individuals. I mean, the food hampers and so on around Christmas times is nice. However, I believe that initiatives ought to be more intentional and geared specifically towards addressing this issue. Initiatives can include establishment of shelters whereby meals, a resting place, perhaps counseling, and even skills training can be taught to these individuals. I look forward to hearing the proposals that the government has as to how they intend to rectify the issue of vagrancy and homelessness in my constituency. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for St. Andrew Southeast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I cannot leave this house today without addressing a dire concern for Grenada. I see a need, and I'm sure my colleagues can agree with me, for laws for preferential treatment to our elderly citizens within the public and the private sector. While we can hope that morality would take precedence and someone would lend a hand to the elderly, the reality is this, that laws and rules need to be clearly set so that this can happen. Now, those who go before us have paved the way, and as their eyes and their limbs get dim, we must make home comfortable for them. I can appreciate that efforts have been made to implement programs such as a roving care geriatric program, but there's a need to do more. We have the Imani program for young persons struggling to get jobs. There are elderly persons who may have reached retirement age, but they are able to work and are willing to do so. Perhaps we can consider a program that provides jobs for elderly persons. Additionally, some dreams are not materialized when you are young, but they can become a reality for you when you are older. Just take, for example, we have, I believe, 5 KFC franchises here. The founder of KFC, Colonel Sanders, he was 65 years old when this became a reality for him. Now, our elderly persons are often denied loans because of their age. We need programs that can help them sustain themselves. So even though when they were young, they could not achieve their dream, it can still become a reality for them because they are living and they have a right to pursue their dream just as everyone else. I would like to end with this verse from Proverbs 20:29 that says, "The glory of young men is in their strength. Gray hair, the splendor of the old." End of quote. Right? As you grow older, you become wiser. That is the ultimate goal. So you want to be proud of yourself when you are older. I remember during the pandemic when we had preferential treatment for the elderly, they didn't have to wait in long lines, right? And they were so proud to present their ID and say, "I'm 65 or I'm 60," to get access, to get the things they need quickly and out. I believe they deserve that treatment every day. We need to end long lines for our elderly citizens. The public sector, the private sector must have ample sitting for elderly citizens when they go to pay their bills. We must honor those who have paved the way before us. The hand that once guided us may someday and in our hands to guide them.
Do we have any more contributions? Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Export.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand here today to acknowledge the honorable members on the other side, my fellow colleagues and distinguished guests. I'm here to bring a major concern to you all. This concern is the cost of living. In Grenada, we experience one of the highest rates of cost of living. So to you, I would like to know what measures or how can we deal with this situation? Mr. Speaker, as a youth, knowing the cost of living, Mr. Speaker, just for buying a bread, which is $4, Mr. Speaker, I would like an valuable explanation as to how, Mr. Speaker, how would you go to a shop and purchase a bread for $4? Mr. Speaker, I would like to know what the government, or not the government, but I would like to know what we as a citizens can do to aid this situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any more contributions? If not, at this point, I would like to acknowledge the judges today who judged this sitting. Mr. Patrick Simmons, former Minister for Youth and Sports. Ms. Caroline Purcell, the acting CEO of the CBI. And Mrs. Alana Felix Roberts, Senior Administrative Officer in the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sport, and Culture. Here I have the top debaters of today's sittings, and I would present the top three. I would ask that you stand so that we can acknowledge you when your name is called. In third, we have Mr. Ishmael Lett, the government side. Second, we have Ms. Karina Blash. And in first, our top debater for today's sitting, we have Ms. Abigail Ellis. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate and commend the National Youth Parliamentarians on a job well done and for a very keen and competitive and interesting sitting today. I am sitting here and I would have enjoyed the sitting, and I'm certain that everyone in the gallery would have done so as well. I believe it was one that was very, very well done. It was a wonderful sitting. Thank you for a great sitting today. Honorable members, the question is that this honorable house stands adjourned. As many as are of the opinion, say aye.
Aye.
And those of the contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The business of this National Youth Parliament of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique stands adjourned. So I wish to retract just a bit as we have the vote of thanks. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of the dignitaries who have graced us with their presence here today. Your attendance has made this Youth Parliament sitting a memorable and unforgettable one. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the viewers in the gallery who have been with us from start to finish. Your presence has given us the motivation to continue to strive for excellence in our future endeavors. I would also like to extend my thanks to our facilitators who have worked tirelessly to ensure that everything runs smoothly and efficiently. Their hard work and dedication have not gone unnoticed, and we are truly grateful for all that you have done. Finally, I would like to extend a special vote of thanks to our lead facilitator and coach, Ms. Tessa Sincere. Her guidance, wisdom, and unwavering support have been valuable to us throughout this sitting. Her tireless efforts have enabled us to achieve great things, and we are truly grateful for everything she has done. In closing, I would like to thank everyone who has been a part of this Youth Parliament sitting. Your presence, support, and participation have made this an unforgettable experience, and we look forward to our next sitting on March 13, 2023. I thank you.
Honorable members, the business of this honorable house, the National Youth Parliament of 2023, stands adjourned until March 13th, 2023.